The man in the corner booth at the cafe never spoke to anyone. His watch gleamed against the polished wood of the table, and his shoes, black leather and spotless, looked almost out of place near the scuffed floorboards. People said he was someone important, but nobody ever asked. His eyes carried too much weight. That morning, as rain streaked the wide glass window, a little girl with tangled hair and worn sneakers clutched a duct-taped backpack against her chest. She hesitated, then stepped closer. Her voice cracked the hush like glass breaking.
"Can I sit here?"
she asked him, eyes wide, stomach growling. She didn't know the man she had chosen was a widowed millionaire CEO. He looked down slowly, startled. The girl's jeans were ripped at the knees, her pink hoodie smeared with dirt. She smelled faintly of rain and dust. Across the cafe, her mother hovered near the door, wringing her hands, clearly embarrassed. Her coat was too thin for the weather, fraying at the sleeves, her lipstick faded, her face tired, yet striking. She had the kind of beauty that couldn't be dimmed by exhaustion, though shadows under her eyes betrayed sleepless nights. The girl tugged at the hem of her hoodie and repeated softly, "Please." The man nodded, though he said nothing at first. He gestured toward the empty seat. She climbed onto it, placing her backpack carefully beside her. A zipper was broken, and a pencil poked out at an odd angle. The waitress raised an eyebrow, but said nothing as she passed by with steaming mugs for another table. "You shouldn't bother strangers," her mother whispered sharply, moving closer, but the man finally spoke. His voice was deep, restrained. "It's no bother," the girl smiled, revealing a gap where a baby tooth had been. She pressed her small hands flat on the table. "We didn't eat breakfast. Do you think they'll let us just sit here for a little?" Her mother flushed crimson, tucking her hair behind her ear, clearly mortified. She started to apologize, but the man waved a hand. "Order something," he said simply, almost like an afterthought, but his tone carried a kind of finality. The mother stammered, "No, that's not necessary, really." But the girl was already reading the menu, lips moving slowly over each word. She stopped at pancakes, eyes lighting up. Her mother caught the man's gaze and saw something in it. Grief, old and heavy, but softened by a flicker of gentleness. Minutes later, pancakes arrived, stacked high with syrup dripping down the sides. The girl dug in as if it was the first real meal she'd had in days, and perhaps it was. Her mother only sipped water, trying to maintain composure, though her empty stomach betrayed her with quiet growls. At the 2-minute mark, the man leaned back, watching them quietly. The re-hook lingered in the air. Who was this stranger really, and why did he look at them as though they reminded him of someone he'd lost? Conversation came slowly. The girl asked his name. He answered, "Daniel." She asked what he did for work. His jaw tightened.
"I run a company."
"Nothing exciting?" He changed the subject quickly, asking about school. She admitted she hadn't gone that week. Her mom's voice cut in, low and ashamed. "We're between places right now." Details slipped out. The fridge in their motel room was nearly empty, just mustard packets and a bottle of flat soda. The bulb flickered whenever they turned it on. Rent was overdue again. The girl's shoes had holes worn clear through the soles, and she stuffed napkins inside to keep her socks from soaking when it rained. Daniel listened, his throat tightening. Her mother's name was Claire. She worked nights cleaning offices, but jobs came and went. She hated handouts, hated pity. Even now she sat straight, trying to look composed, despite the frayed threads at her collar and the bruising exhaustion around her eyes. There was pride in the way she held herself, a quiet defiance. When the plates were cleared, Daniel checked his watch, a habit he couldn't seem to break. He should have been across town in a glass tower, reviewing contracts. But he stayed. "Do you have somewhere safe to go tonight?" he asked, too directly. Claire stiffened. "We'll manage." Her tone was final, but her fingers trembled as she folded a napkin again and again. The little girl, unaware of her mother's pride, blurted, "Sometimes we sleep in the car."
"It's not too bad, except when it's cold." She said it innocently, like a secret she wasn't supposed to tell.
Claire's face crumpled for a moment before she forced herself to smile. Daniel's chest ached. He remembered hospital nights when his wife was sick, the loneliness of empty dinners afterward. Now across from him sat another kind of loneliness, raw, unhidden. The cafe door opened with a gust of cold air. A group of laughing executives in tailored suits swept past, ordering lattes without glancing at the small family in the corner. Claire looked down quickly, embarrassed again by the contrast, while Daniel's eyes hardened. He knew both worlds, and the distance between them felt unbearable. The girl finished her pancakes, licking syrup from her fingers. She leaned toward Daniel, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "You're nice. Most people don't notice us." Her words landed heavier than she knew. Claire reached to pull her daughter back, murmuring apologies again, but Daniel stopped her softly. "She's right." His voice was thick now. He hesitated, wrestling with something unseen, until finally he said, "What if I could help? Just a little?" Claire froze. Her pride flared instantly, her lips pressed tight. "We don't take charity." Daniel met her gaze evenly.
I didn't say charity. The air seemed to thrum with tension, the rain outside intensifying against the glass.
Claire's eyes darted to her daughter, who was humming softly, tracing shapes in the condensation on the window. She wanted to protect her, to keep dignity intact, but hunger and exhaustion clawed at her. Daniel reached into his coat pocket, fingers brushing something, an envelope, crisp and sealed. He hesitated, then placed it on the table slowly, almost reluctantly, as though revealing a dangerous secret. Claire's eyes widened, her breath catching. She didn't touch it. Silence stretched. The girl looked between them, confused. "What's that?" she asked. Claire swallowed hard, torn between desperation and pride, staring at the envelope as though it might burn her fingers if she touched it. Claire's hand hovered over the envelope, but didn't move. Her jaw clenched, her breath uneven. The little girl leaned closer, whispering as though the secret were too heavy for the air. "Mom, maybe it's money. We could get real groceries." Her voice was innocent, hopeful, unguarded. Claire blinked rapidly, fighting back tears. She looked at Daniel with suspicion, as if trying to measure what kind of man would do this and what he might want in return. Daniel read her silence. His throat worked as he forced the words out.
It's not a trap. It's just help. No strings. Not because I pity you.
Because I understand what it's like to lose everything. Claire's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Her fingers trembled as she finally slid the envelope closer, almost against her will. She opened it cautiously. Inside were $100 bills, crisp and shocking. She gasped softly, a sound she tried to swallow, but it escaped anyway. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was barely audible, breaking on the single word. Daniel looked at the little girl, who was now gazing at him with wide, trusting eyes. "Because once," he said slowly, "my wife was sick."
And no one noticed us either. People don't see what's right in front of them. His gaze drifted, heavy with memory.
"She's gone now. But if someone had seen her sooner, maybe—" His voice trailed off. He pressed his lips together, shutting down the thought. The rehook burned into the space between them. This was not a man simply giving money. This was a man haunted by grief, trying to rewrite an ending he couldn't change. Claire's pride cracked. She leaned back, covering her mouth with her hand, shoulders shaking. She was embarrassed by her own vulnerability, but the weight of years pressed against her.
I don't know what to say. Daniel shook his head. Don't say anything, just...
Take care of her? He nodded toward her daughter. The girl grinned. Does this mean we can get pizza tonight?
And milk, like real milk?
Her joy was so unfiltered it made Claire cry harder. She turned away quickly, wiping her eyes, hating that a stranger saw her break. When they left the cafe, rain still fell. Daniel followed them outside, his coat collar turned up against the wind. He hesitated before speaking again. If you want,
I could help more than this.
maybe even work.
I have contacts. A job that pays steady, Claire froze, her daughter holding her hand tightly.
She wanted to believe him. She wanted to run, too, away from debt, away from humiliation, away from what felt too good to be true. Her voice trembled. Why us? Daniel's eyes softened. Because you remind me of someone who mattered.
And because I can.
Most people with money look away. I don't want to look away anymore. That night, Claire used part of the envelope to buy groceries. Not just scraps, but bread, fruit, eggs, even cookies her daughter picked with delight. At the checkout, Claire's hands shook as she counted bills, still half convinced they would vanish. She carried the bags like treasures back to the motel. The fridge hummed when she filled it, no longer barren. For the first time in weeks, she breathed without that crushing weight in her chest. Days passed. Daniel kept his word. He arranged an interview at one of his subsidiary companies. Not a favor slipped under the table, but a legitimate chance. Claire showed up in her second-hand blazer, shoulders squared despite her nerves. She spoke clearly, honestly. She got the job. The relief on her face was almost painful, a floodgate opening. Her daughter thrived.
School returned, lunches packed, shoes replaced.
She laughed more. The duct-taped backpack finally retired. Each small change felt monumental. Daniel didn't insert himself into their lives recklessly. He checked in carefully, respectfully. Claire resisted at first, her pride like armor, but gradually she let him in. Coffee shared after work. Walks through the park while the girl played. He never pushed. He simply listened, present, in a way no one had been for a long time. One evening, months later, Claire found herself standing in Daniel's penthouse. The view stretched across the city, glittering lights against the night. She wore a deep red dress she'd found on clearance, fitted at the waist, her hair loose for once. She looked radiant, though she shifted nervously, brushing a strand behind her ear. "You don't have to pretend with me," Daniel said softly, handing her a glass of wine.
Not strong all the time, not perfect.
"Just yourself." She held his gaze, searching. "And you? Do you ever stop pretending you're fine?" The question disarmed him. His eyes welled, though he laughed quietly to hide it. "Maybe tonight." The girl ran in from the balcony, laughing, waving at the city lights. She wrapped her arms around both of them, and for a moment the three stood together, framed by glass and night, grief and hope colliding in something new. It wasn't a fairy tale. Bills still arrived. Work was still exhausting. Nights were still long. But the crushing loneliness was different now. It was shared, not endured alone.